With long, fast sweeping corners, the Lotus should thrive here, but that will also mean passing will be at a premium. Look out for some intense fights for track position as we get ready to watch round 10 of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series. You'll see it all live here on iRacing and the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and joining me in the booth is former driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director Daniel Costello, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Joey, after the Ring and Detroit back-to-back, this place will probably feel like a bit of a relief.
A totally different track than what we've had. Like you said, we were just at Detroit, a good old classic street fight, and now we go to a true Formula One track. Can't wait to see the action.
This should be fun. But in case any of our viewers aren't as familiar with Barcelona, why don't we head on over to our track guide.
Welcome to Circuit de Barcelona. The home of the Spanish Grand Prix for nearly 30 years, it's easy to forget that this is a relatively recently built track in Europe. It's known for its long, sweeping corners and hosts the highest level of open-wheel and motorcycle racing. Placing an emphasis on a good aerodynamic setup with high downforce cars, it's often overlooked that it offers plenty of overtaking for lower-tier racing as well. In fact, most don't take into account that this adaptable track has 5 different layouts to choose from. These range from the nearly 3-mile-long Grand Prix version to the minuscule 1-mile club circuit. Because of the pit straight being the longest acceleration zone, Elf is the most likely spot for drivers to get a pass done. After that, your next hope might be into La Caixa, which, depending on which layout you use, could be a sharpened set of 2 turns or one long hairpin with an opening radius. In the early 2000s, a chicane was added close to the end of the lap, but the old Europe car corner can still be run. The Spanish fans have some gorgeous views from the many hills dotted along the track. And with the international fame this place has built over time, it's no wonder they're almost always full come race day.
So as you can see, it's been popular in F1 for many, many years, many decades at this point, Joey, but should be interesting to take it back a notch with these 79s.
Yeah, and we are racing that classic layout too, so get rid of that silly little chicane on the back end of this circuit. 13 turns, 2.93 miles, which equals 4.72 kilometers in length. First opened in the early 90s, and like I said, a classic Formula One staple track. These cars will feel right at home. A huge front straightaway with a good brake zone going down into turn number 1. Watch for passing opportunities down there. And then sector 1, a little bit more, call it medium speed. Downforce going to be full display. Turn number 5, also a great sneaky little passing opportunity. And then the track starts to speed up a little bit through sector 2. Turn number 9, always a fast corner. Turn 10, another good passing opportunity. And like I said, this is the classic layout. No chicane in between turns 13 and 14. These cars are going to be ripping out onto the front straightaway.
That speed on the front stretch is going to be so important over the course of this race. But the championship, with just a couple rounds left, has really gone in favor of Togo Hisada. Although James Berry is not far behind, but he finally tripped up for the first time last weekend and didn't have a good score. Gernot Frische back by 134 points. He's been hot and cold all season long, so that's why he's not in it, despite seeing a lot more speed as of late. But look at the fight between Gallus and Friesen. 2 points between them to try and decide fourth. That's going to be fun to see how that plays out. From there, it stretches down a bit all the way to Gabri Martinez there within our top 10. Now, why don't we take a look at the F2 standings?
Yeah, just separated by the driver's iRating. Right now, it is Keith Herner leading by 43 points over Simon Steinbild. Then it's very close between second and third. You see only a single point separating Simon and Matt Cockrum back here. Gorginot in fourth place. Barry West, the big cat, hanging out inside the top 5, but look at how close it is behind for the next, call it 5 competitors. Manning Grennan, Kirk Clapper, Samari, Connor Levy, and also Alec Klessig, all included in that top 10.
We also have a team standings that we run here in Lotus 79. Williams Racing up on top over Lotus, with Renault trying to chase behind. Look at that, 3 points between second and third place, but they're going to need a little bit of a push here at the end if they want to try and catch Williams this season. McLaren, not like they are in real life right now, where they have quite a healthy lead. They've fallen to fourth, unfortunately. From there, you got a few battles for six between Ferrari, Ligier, and ATS along with Team Ensign very close to them back there for 6th to 9th, essentially, and a drop off down to the Arrows Racing team falling a bit behind this season. Let's take a look at today's race details, though, and how this all is going to play out.
Yeah, we're going to be racing 25 laps around this Barcelona circuit out here. And as always, it is going to be an open setup. So that means you can tweak and tune on those cars as you see fit. And it is round 10 of 12. So we are kind of closing down the final stages of this championship. And when I say open setup, like I said, you can tweak and tune on it, but go join the communities. They are always handing out the fast stuff. Thanks to Pauli Partanen and company over there, making sure everybody is up to speed. No spare cars, so if you pick up any damage, go smashing into anybody or find yourself in a wall, well, you got to deal with it with no fast repair. Talking about incident points, 17 incident points to get a drive-through, and unfortunately a disqualification at 25 incident points, but I highly doubt we've ever seen that in the open wheel cars.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be difficult to rack those up. That said, it is a modern F1 track, and they do have a lot of places that you can go just a little bit wide around here and start to rack up those 1Xs. So you don't want to abuse them too much. Granted, you'll get more from winding up clobbering into one another. Looks like James Barry has managed to outpace Hisada, but it's by barely a tenth of a second between them, and both are currently on their second lap. So this second run could wind up being decisive. Both of them having a bad weekend last week.
Yeah, Togo just didn't get the initial qualifying that he really wanted to over at Detroit, and he's actually abandoning this lap right now, so he's going to be pulling off the racetrack. Here is our provisional pole sitter in the number 7 car. This is James Barry, current lap time of a 1:28.915, and typically we do see these cars on lap number 2 make a little bit more speed. Start-finish line kind of in the first third of this straightaway here. He puts down a 1:28.939, so does actually not improve his lap time.
It was very close. He was extremely consistent, but yeah, a bit surprising. Both he and Togo not able to improve on that second lap. Curious why Togo pulled off on that second attempt. Frisha has moved up into P3 while we were watching those two, but this is Gabri Martinez, who currently sits in 7th, and that was his second lap, so he is going to pull that very multicolored car over to the side and park it, not feeling any need to do some extra laps around here. Here's Gernot Frisha now, and on this second time around, I am showing improvements, and he only needs to make up 0.2 to take pole away.
Gernot did not have a good race over in Detroit, just like how I was mentioning. Togo Hisada did not have a good street fight over there either. It was pretty impressive what Frisha was able to do, though. He kind of got knocked around in those first couple laps, and then Joe, he drove the majority of a street race with no rear wing. He was drifting the thing around the entire race. It was pretty fun to watch, but certainly wasn't fast.
He was trying to show up Togo and his drifting skills a little bit, but Frisha, I'm showing him still with a massive improvement on this second lap. This could be huge here. He could take it away from both of them and add to his many poles that he's taken here in the 79s. Let's see what the lap time winds up being as he gets ready to cross the line. 28.8, and that indeed is going to be pole by 0.03 of a second.
That was a heck of a lap out of Frisha. Let's see what Pepe Fuentes has, a 29.1, so that'll slot him into the second row as well. Gerard Baldu finally puts down a lap time good enough for a little bit further back in the pack with a 1:34.2. And I'm looking for anybody else here in qualifying, but I think that's pretty much it. There's a couple cars that are still kind of roaming around out there on the racetrack, but I think that everybody's actually put in their effort.
Yes, they have indeed. So while we do have a minute left, it is essentially over at this point. Nobody else can set a time. So that is locked in. A bit of a surprise there with Frisha managing to overtake Barry and Hisada. What's that going to look like in the race itself is the big question, because I feel like the trend we've seen so many times is, yes, you want downforce on a track like this, Joey, but being able to be fast in a straight line could be a big difference.
Two completely different setups. I feel that in the race, you might need a little bit less downforce, like you were just saying, in order to complete the passes on the front straightaway. If you have too much downforce in the car, you just simply can't draft behind somebody else. So, yeah, it'll be very interesting. The other thing that caught my eye out here, the number 9 car, Joe, Jack David Spickett, he's usually towards the front of these fields. He did not even put in a qualifying effort. I think, what's he trying to pull? I think that's called a clapper.
Yeah, that's starting to use that term. I also feel like it's very appropriate that Gerard has a SpongeBob helmet in a shell-themed car. So kind of going for that undersea vibe going, but he unfortunately has qualified 30th, so he's the last of our drivers to set a time, which, speaking of which, it's our opportunity to go through that starting order here today. And Gernot Frische, as we said, on pole. That's 2 bonus points over James Berry, who is second, Togo Hisata in third, Pepe Fuentes P4 with James Byrne, an excellent fifth. Shady Ahmad will start from 6, followed by Gabri Martinez in 7th, Karthik Pai P8, then row 5 has Connor Levy to the inside and Han Summer to the outside.
Dylan Freckleton going to be starting from the 11th spot with Carlos Peralta in 12th. Josephine Becker back here in 13th, sharing row number 7 with Javier Mascara. In 15th, we've got Farron Grau lined up next to Ricardo Ruiz in 16th. Kevin Parrish in 17th, Daniel Gallus in 18th, and then on row number 10 is Xavier Sanchez and AJ Roper in 20th.
Simon Steinbild will be in 21st, Bjorn Ackerman with 22nd. Kurt Clapper going to be starting P23. Barry West then on the outside him in 24th. Matthew Cockram will be in the 25th spot, and Jesus Morales in 26th. Jana Lehman 27th today, followed by Martin Riesman in the 28th spot. Carol Sorrow in 29th, and Gerard Boldu, as we said, the last of them to qualify 30th. From there, it's all by iRating. JDS not able to set a time. Antonio Alvarez, Jos Gislaine, and Alec Cunningham. 34 cars. That will be plenty to keep everybody busy. And you don't want to experience traffic around here. It's a long run down to turn 1, Joey. This is going to be important to get a good start.
That start-finish line, like you said, is about kind of a third of the way down this front straightaway, which is very, very long. I think this initial launch could certainly tell the tale of who's going to reach the lead first. Remember, Togo Hisata has been working on these standing starts. Let's see if he can nail it today from the 3rd spot.
They can make or break your race, and we've seen that a number of times out there. Looks like cars are revving. They're ready to go racing here at Barcelona, and the green flag is out. It is not a good start for Barry. He falls back to 3rd immediately. Hisata with a lightning run. In fact, he's going to try and poke his nose down to the inside, coming into Elf as Gernot Frische does not defend enough. He sends it in as deep as he can to hold on to that lead, and it looks like he will. It is 3 wide behind them for 4th place, and I think that'll come out to Barry getting that 4th spot.
And Togo Hisata powered it up around the outside of turn number 2, took away the lead from Gernot Frische, so now that number 3 car is leading the pack going into what is turn number 4. Look at how busy it is further back, 2 wide for what is 4th place. Another big mover on that start, Pepe Fuentes up to 3rd.
A nice jump from him. Unfortunately, too much of a jump for Javier Mascara, who has a black flag. Looks like he is going to have to serve that one soon. Probably just a bit too eager off the line. On board with James Byrne, sitting back in 6th position. He's chasing down Gabri Martinez as we ride on board through one of the fastest corners here at the top of the hill through Campsa.
Turn 9 is so daunting. You got to keep your foot to the floor up through there, and it looks like James has a nice little run, going to stay in the tire tracks of Gabri Martinez directly in front of him. I have a feeling that we're going to see a few of these trains forming at Catalunya here. It is going to be more of a medium downforce race. We're going to see if anybody's got this low downforce, though, coming up. We're reaching the front straightaway.
This is going to be the most telling spot of the race right here as they start to fly and pick up speed, already 150, and they barely cross the start line. But coming down into the braking, Hisata does look strong enough. Look at them weave behind as they try to break that draft. Cars looking to position themselves to outbreak.
And unfortunately, I think it might have been Javier Mascara or Hans Sommer in the very, very background. Turn number 13 was off into the gravel, so not a good opening lap for them. is Ricardo Ruiz sitting back here has actually moved up 3 positions from where he started. He's on the charge forward just past Connor Levy. Now he's got his sights set on the number 23 car directly in front.
Mid-pack going to be frantic today. Like we said, track position so important around here. Pepe Fuentes, though, has been re-overtaken by James Berry, who's moved back into third. He's hassling him, though, to try and take that one back. Looks to over-under coming out through Vert, and he almost gets it done, but he's on the wrong side up through Camp Sutton. He has to slot back in line.
I think James Berry has got his eyes set forward. He has been up front in these races. He has been winning these Lotus 79 races. Did not have a good initial launch on that green flag start. So now that he's kind of in the rhythm here on lap number 2, I think we're going to see that red number 7 start to move forward.
Prix managed to win at Magny-Cours, but hasn't been up at the top since. Here's James Berry trying to make that pass. Oh, wow, he just snookered him and took it right down the inside of Seat and snuck by.
I think that turn 5 is a good passing opportunity, but like you said, it's a little bit sneaky. It's still downhill, so you have to make sure to nail your brake point. Otherwise, you're just going to slide off the racetrack off to driver's right. But James Berry did a great job. And not only that, Joe, but it was lap number 2. Remember how fast these cars get on lap number 2. You just have to have the confidence to trust it.
Absolutely, as we get a nice little battle coming down into turn 1 here. This is for 20th position, being led by JDS, who absolutely streaks away from this group. He made a good job getting through this band of rivals. Cockrum up at the front of them now. AJ Roper under attack as Clapper tries to go down the inside, sends it in deep into Repsol. They're almost going to bang wheels through there, and that actually helps out AJ Roper, who gets a little bit of a better run.
Yeah, and Kirk Clapper a little bit easy on the brakes. There's actually going to get overtaken by Morales a little bit deep, and now we're 3 wide coming out. The biggest loser out of that is going to be Kirk Clapper. He's probably feeling a little bit wronged, pushed out on the outside of the track, and man, when it rains, it pours. Here comes another car around the outside. I think he's going to lose 5, maybe 6 positions out of all of this.
Wow, dropping so fast. Cunningham, the latest to go by. Now he's got Zaro trying to come up from behind as we get that battle back with Riesman, looking a little deep, unfortunately, down into Lakaja. He's working on Morales, who's been a little all over the place. Morales, in fact, the one making that contact back in turn 5. But now we hop on board with Barry West, who is in the thick of it in his VR headset.
I got to chuckle to myself over here, Joe Peak, because a lot of these hairpins and a lot of these sends are reminding me a lot of Crandon, right? They've had the super sessions going on all week, and those hairpins, apparently some of these Lotus 79 drivers think they can drive it in deep like those trucks.
I mean, they've been bit by the bug, apparently. So coming down into turn 1, we're going to get another send. Riesman doesn't need to send it. He is fully ahead by the braking zone. Morales now back into 24th position. He's got some more company coming around the inside. Ooh, an easy pass there from Barry West. Just slides on by.
The Big Cat got his claws out for the traction on the inside of the corner, and like you said, was just able to power his way up and past that car. And unfortunately for Morales, he's going to lose 2 positions now. So he was very aggressive going into this corner, turn number 5 on the prior lap. That's what kind of caused all of this schmozzle, and now unfortunately he's fallen back to 26th.
Yeah, that's going to be Alvarez getting into P25 just past him. Wonder if there was any damage on the front wing of Morales. Has a heck of a moment there and almost gets lost out to Lehman for a position, because it certainly seems like Morales has been a bit on the back foot this lap.
You know, you bring up a very good point, and I just went and looked. He just did another super send, the number 18 car, and almost contact once again with Antonio Alvarez. But to your point, yes, there is damage on the front right part of the wing up towards the nose, so it is going to affect that 18.
Like we said, even though it's a downforce track, if you lack that straight line speed, it's going to be a heck of a day out there, and we're probably going to see it. As we switched up to Farron Grau in the meantime, Josephine Becker on the defense. Farron trying to weave back and forth to find some sort of opening through the first 3 corners out of Renault. Long right-hander. He gets a decent run. Becker, though, defends once again, coming down to 4.
Get the downforce on display out of that white and blue number 16 of Farron Grau. Tried to take it around the outside. I love the grip that these cars have. You know, usually as a commentator, we're kind of watching more from overhead stuff. That was a big wiggle from Becker. This could be an opportunity as we jump back to Alec Cunningham a little bit further back here in turn number 5. This is side by side with Farron Grau, though, still up in the upper part of the screen. But back to my long-winded point, I love watching them from the overhead because they almost seem like slot cars. They have these huge moments of acceleration and then these rapid decelerations. It's so cool to watch.
These are impressive cars, especially considering the technology is close to 50 years old at this stage. But Kurt Clapper here and amongst this group we've been watching as we come back to James Barry, it looks more like Talladega out there with how many cars are so close together. They are a bit more spread out here at the front. Barry still chasing on Freesia, who has kind of lost touch with Hisada. It's about a second apart. You can still see that 3 car up in the lead.
And now we're kind of getting into the thick of it, right? Is that who has got the race pace out of it all? It certainly seems like James Barry has a little bit more speed than Gernot Freesia, at least at this point in the race. Getting out a little bit wider than Freesia. Let's see if he goes down the inside of turn number 5, deep on the brakes. Gernot on the outside, pretty much going to leave him room here. I wouldn't expect him to fight it going down into turn number 5. Does he go deep on the brakes? No, he simply lets James Barry go. I like that move. He says the number 7 may be a little bit faster. If he goes up and challenges Togo Asada, it might bring the fight back to that number 2.
That's a good point, but he's got to watch out because Fuentes is getting close behind. What happens to Hans Sommer? You don't want to hit those sausage curbs here, and that is a great illustration why.
That was on the opening lap. That was that car that was out there in, call it turn number 13 on the very end of the opening lap. So hopefully he didn't have any serious damage from that, and he's back out there, but lost a ton of track position.
Yeah, and you mentioned Mascara on that opening lap. He did serve that penalty, but he's still sitting back in 33rd. So it's been a bit of a crummy day for him. Meanwhile, back to Farron Grau and Becker. They're being chased down by Peraltada behind them, so this could have some more friends joining in shortly if they're not careful. Who's going to get the run down the main straight? Becker does look like she's got a pretty good exit here, but for Grau, he's got an even better run, and he's starting to reel her in. Does he try to go down the inside? No, he can't, because there's a big defense from Josephine coming into Elf. They're going to go wheel to wheel, and she is going to shut the door.
Nice move and speed from Becker right there. Was just able to hold off Farron Grau, and I don't think that the fight is over quite yet. We've seen this blue and white car have tremendous amounts of speed, kind of get choked up behind Becker a few times, and then kind of reach the back of the rear wing after, call it half a lap, maybe 3/4 of a lap. So I think it's just a matter of time until Farron kind of finds his way to the inside of one of these apexes, maybe even makes it too wide and gets this pass accomplished.
I mean, that's assuming that he doesn't make himself vulnerable, because Peraltada's there, Ruiz, Levy. I mean, you mentioned we'll see some trains. I'd say we got one forming right here.
100%. And you mentioned Connor Levy. I think we got Levy Nation over in the YouTube chat land. So some fans definitely watching Connor. Unfortunately, he's slipped down a few positions from where he initially started. But like you just heard Joe say, he is right in the thick of this mid-pack battle, trying to get up there inside the top 10.
As soon as anybody in this group slips up, that's going to mean everybody behind starts to pounce. So you cannot make a mistake here. And that also means you can't really make an ill-fated move and open yourself up to attack. Meanwhile, James Barry, now that he's been freed from Freesia, has set the fastest lap of the race. He's going to go and try and chase down Hisada. Let's see what happens with this group coming into turn 1. And Josephine Becker again will force the defense. Wow, late move from Grau. Tries to take the apex away, doesn't quite get it in there.
Yeah, but let's see if it just puts Becker off of the line. No, doing a fantastic job to stick it right in front of Farron Grau, kicking up all of that dirty air onto the number 16, so Farron can't do anything about it. I think the frustration level is starting to creep up. Look at all these cars right behind Josephine Becker in that number 33. I'm sure they're starting to get antsy right now.
I went back and checked those lap time differences between Hisada and Barry on last lap. 0.7 of a second faster on that one lap. That, I mean, I don't think we ever see anybody that much faster than Hisada. That is impressive.
Extremely impressive. The one caveat, though, I look at their fastest lap, only separated by less than a tenth of a second. I actually think that Togo Hisada made a mistake that prior lap. You point out 7/10 of a difference, but his lap of 31.0 over half a second off of his fastest. So I think something happened to the number 3 car. And remember last week, he crashed it himself in Detroit.
This lap was a 30.6, so you're right. That looks much more on pace. That said, it was still 2/10 faster for Barry once again. Meanwhile, we're still on screen watching Becker versus Grau versus Peraltada versus everybody else that you can think of in this field coming down into the brake zone. He's been trying around multiple different ways. Grau is going to go around the outside this time. I think he might have it. No, it is not done. He slips up on the curb. Becker with a magnificent recovery.
Just doing everything right in the front of this train. It is very difficult to kind of be in this defensive posture, but still kind of maintain your pace out there. Doing a fantastic job is Josephine Becker, not allowing Farron Grau to get to the inside of any one of these corners, and then obviously has a fast enough car with a good enough downforce level that not able to approach it on the straightaways.
So as this line of rivals come up through 6 and 7 now, and then get ready to head through Campsa. This is where Becker might struggle a little bit more, but actually handles it pretty well. They're still having a hard time and getting close in behind, because sometimes you can get a fight down here into Lakaja, and that was an attempt from Grau, but it didn't quite get side by side.
So there's two types of defensive driving, and in my opinion, I think that Josephine Becker is doing what I would call the more preferred defensive driving, where they feel like they're far enough ahead going into these brake zones that they don't need to put the car in the middle of the road. If somebody throws a Hail Mary from up the inside, well, guess what? If they're going to crash into you, it's clearly going to be their fault. So what Josephine Becker is doing is staying on the racing line, at least for the most part, and carrying that maximum apex speed. So they are keeping their speed up, and it's making it incredibly difficult for anybody behind to make a pass.
We watch Farron Grau now on our screen coming out of Renault. Still has Peraltada very close behind. Ooh, back up to Pepe Fuentes. And Gernot Frisha is indeed on the back foot once again. Pepe has been on the attack, trying to see if he can sneak by, but hasn't successfully overtaken quite yet. It does look like Gernot is a bit wrong-footed at times, as he was squirrely coming out of Vert.
So, once again, I love talking about these downforce levels and the nerdiness of car setup out here. Fuentes a little bit deep, barely keeps it on the racetrack, and to lose probably 2 or 3 car lengths out of that. But remember, Gernot Frisha is a very savvy competitor out here. He was a little bit squirmy in Sector 1 and Sector 2. I wonder if he's got a slightly lower downforce level, so that way simply nobody can pass him on the straightaway, but he has to hang on to it. And look at our lead battle. James Barry is fully in the slipstream of Togo Hisada.
He lost positions at the start. Could that have made the difference in this race? Because he's on lap 11, so there's still time left, but he's lost a lot of time that he could have been on the attack, poking and prodding. But now he's only got a little more than half the race to go to try and find a way past Togo Hisada. And they still have a long ways before they get to any sort of traffic. So for the time being, this is going to be 1v1.
Going down here into this slightly downhill. That is a big send from James Barry, but gets the car stopped before even reaching the rear axle of Togo Hisada. But that goes to show you the aggression level out of that red number 7. He wants by, and he wants by now.
I know you were joking about the Pro 4s at Crandon, but I mean, that did feel like almost a slide job attempt. Oh no, things have gone awry in the group that we were watching, and it is Peralta who comes out the worst of it. He'll get it going, but he has lost touch with that pack now.
Yeah, and if we do get a replay of that, I think it's going to show that he just was in a little bit too deep himself. No cars next to him, loose conditions, spins it around, and not sure which car that was that made contact with him as he was stopped. And unfortunately, I'm watching him right now. He's just crashed it again into the wall.
Yeah, he had some front wing damage. He must not have had the downforce that he thought he had coming into one of the corners. A little farther apart this time between Hisada and Barry. So I don't think we're going to see a pass attempt down into turn one, using up plenty of the extra road off on the left-hand side. James Berry trying to open up the track a little bit.
So I'm going to start to really watch these, and this is the second replay. Oh, I think that Peralta actually he definitely got punted off of the left side of the racetrack. I wonder if he was maybe going a little bit slow because he had that damage like you were talking about, but definitely got helped off of the racetrack. But back to my long-winded point here. I'm going to watch the top speeds of these two cars. If Togo Hisada is able to match the top speed that James Berry is in the draft, I think we've got our answer on the grip level on that rear wing.
Coming off of vert once again up the hill to Campsa. Both of them trying to keep their foot down as much as possible through that fast right-hander, and it crests at the top as well. Good run from Berry. He's getting very close. He's going to look to the inside once again, and he does think he's better under braking, because that's now the second time we've seen him go for a move from well far back.
Oh, and he's got some nice clean air on the inside of the racetrack here. He's going to be incredibly close. Let's see if he's able to maintain this distance around these fast two final corners here. He's close enough through 12 and now through 13. He's right there. Joe Peak, this is as close as he's ever been on the front straightaway.
I'm seeing about 158, 159, so just slightly better speed here for James Berry, but he is in the slipstream. But look, they start to just kind of stall out once they get to the end of the straightaway. I think you're right. I think Togo trimmed the wing out, and that's making the difference.
It certainly seemed kind of in the middle part of the straightaway that James Berry had a head of steam, but once it kind of got to that terminal top speed, Togo Hisada was matching the number 7 car. It just goes to show you how much he's learned. Remember when he first started driving these 79s? He was in the shoes of James Berry trying to figure out, how do I get by Jukka Tolvanen? How do I get by Pauli Partanen? And he has finally figured out that car setup.
And that's made him quite a force in this series, as he's taken multiple wins this season already. So we know we've seen in past seasons, he's already been notching them up. He's still a relative newcomer compared to a lot of the front runners, and yet just looks like an experienced veteran at this early stage. Berry still unable to find his way past. 13 laps to go. I said we could have some intense battles, and this is shaping up to be one.
Togo's going to have to play defense literally this entire time, because it's clear that James has a faster car through the turns. It's just that Togo Hisada is so fast down the straightaways. You got to love it when your car handles the best down the straight line. So once again, let's see the draft battle. Actually, James Berry might be a little bit closer, but here's where it starts to stall out. Even top speeds by the time we get to the brake marker. Can James send it up the outside? He's trying to get there. He is. He's side by side with Togo Hisada. Now Togo's going to have the inside for what is turn number 3. The shorter distance is going to prevail, but can James throw it up the inside of turn 4?
He's certainly close enough, and I think Togo knows it. He covers him immediately. We don't have a Rosberg v. Hamilton situation down into that corner, thankfully, but Hisada's still side by side. James, round the long way, is going to give him the inside into turn 5, and that might get the pass done. He gives just enough room to Togo Hisada. It's still not done. They're coming down to the left-hander of Vert, and he's going to go deep into this corner. Somehow, he has come back to the lead. I don't know how he did that.
Respectful driving. That's how he did it. James Berry respected the room that Togo Hisada needed on the racetrack, and vice versa. This is what we love to see, and it's actually what Gernot Frische loves to see as well. All of a sudden, that 2.5 second gap between second and third is now under a second there in slipstream range.
Wow, this really did kick up a notch here as we see a battle farther down. Javier Mascara in a nice little fight as we come down to Vert for them. Cars trying to pick alternate lines into what is a tricky corner at best, even when you're single file. Meanwhile, on the front straightaway, not as close this time, but what did James Berry learn last time about fighting Hisada into turn 1?
Well, Togo's going to take that line this time. He says, all right, I got to maximize my rolling speed through 1 and 2 so that way I'm not under attack in these next couple of corners. I'm extremely impressed that Togo Hisada was able to throw it up the outside of what is turn number 7. Is Ferengrau finally going to get this pass done? Looks like he's clear of Josephine Becker.
Boy, that was a long time coming. Great move by Grau up to 10th now. Now he has to try and not lose it to Josephine, because if she can stay close, she could have a much easier pass. In the meantime, back to Barry versus Hisada, separated by barely a car length between them. They've settled down briefly. Will that allow them to run away from Frisha and Fuentes so that they don't have more complications in this? And there is a good example of the arrow wake, as Barry seemed to lose a little time there through turn 9.
Oh, but closes it huge amounts on the brakes. I think the slow bleed that Togo Asada is kind of dealing with right now is those rear tires. Now, when we talk about a lower downforce car, obviously it helps out on the straight line, on the top speed. However, you have to manage that rear tire grip. That's what he's kind of struggling with right now, as Pepe Fuentes really climbing on the back of Frisha.
Barry got a very good run that time, and it looks like Fuentes did as well. So we're going to have two battles coming in at the same time. Fuentes going to actually be able to pop out next to Gernot Frisha, and not the same for Barry versus Hisada. Looks like Fuentes will stay in 4th for this time. Frisha, though, is going to lose some ground with his defense.
He's just hoping that Togo and James start battling it out again, because they were able to close so much ground on the leaders when they were fighting side by side. And actually, as I say that, James Barry's got a terrific run on Togo Asada. He's trying to take a look up the inside, but once again, Togo leaves plenty of room. And remember, this next corner, we've seen him dominate the outside of turn number 7. So I think James is just trying to present the car, put Togo in a place on the racetrack where maybe he's not comfortable, but I don't think that's possible.
I don't know. We've seen some places where James has been able to get creative, and guess who got by Grau? Josephine Becker. I said he had to watch out, and Josephine demonstrated why as she retook the position.
Nicely done. That battle is probably going to last all 25 laps of today's race. We'll just have to see who finally gets that checkered flag at the end. James Barry thought about a little bit of an over-under there in this, call it sector number 3. You see him kind of have to lift off of the gas through turn number 13, but this is setting up another great passing opportunity. The Serpentine, the block down the front straightaway.
The last time he got this close, he actually managed to get a nose ahead through 1 and 2, but, oh wow, he's not gaining nearly as much this time unless he lifted. That was interesting. And in fact, they lost a ton. Gernot Frisha is actually there behind them now.
That last lap out of Togo, a 31.1, out of Gernot, a 30.6. So yeah, over half a second difference. James thought about throwing it up the inside, an aggressive move to just try to take Togo's eyes off of the apex a little bit. Turn number 5 has been another strong area for this red number 7 car. He looks to the outside, tries to capitalize on the late apex, but Togo puts the power down nicely.
If there is a 79-sized gap, I get the sense that Barry is going to try and stick his car in there. When he sees an opportunity, he's not shy about it. And that's what I love about this battle, is both of them are just so fierce about both defense and attack. But at the same time, like you've been saying, a lot of respect given between them. But they've certainly been losing a lot of time now. And if we see another move from Barry, he's got to watch out. Gernot Frisha is a-coming.
And we've actually got a train of 5 now. It's been 4. I want to give a shout out to that yellow number 1 car. We haven't even mentioned him today at all. That is James Byrne. He has officially joined the front end of this party. And looking at his iRating, he definitely knows how to race. We'll see if he can get up there.
Trying to find and see if he's part of one of these classic teams, because that paint scheme feels very familiar. But in the meantime, almost side by side once again for P1, but still can't quite seem to do it. I kind of get the sense that maybe James isn't trying to do the same thing over and over again. I wonder if he's experimenting a bit.
Well, when you can't pass Togo Asada, I think you're going to have to look for new opportunities. So you're right. He's just kind of wandering around the racetrack. Maybe if I go look inside here, maybe look outside there, does it kind of put him on the back foot? Togo Asada right in the middle of the racetrack there into turn number 5. But that corner actually has a fair amount of camber, at least in the first half, so you can kind of get away with those defensive lines. And then, of course, we've seen him so good through 7, 8, and 9. James Barry is just going to have to sit back here in the slipstream and actually have to worry about this driver, Gernot Frisha, behind him.
2, 3, 4, 5 in a line here with now only 8 laps left to go at a track that is notorious for making passing difficult for drivers. James Barry has figured that one out. Fuentes has figured that one out. Have they figured out how to crack that nut and get by? We'll see if anybody gets a run onto the main straight once again. Doesn't look nearly as close as we've seen in times past, and we know that Hisada is going to try and stretch it out as he actually gets a pretty good run onto the main straight.
So the closest we've seen James Barry, at least on timing and scoring, is about 0.2 of a second coming out of turn number 13. And we have yet to see him actually pass Togo Hisada. How close does he actually need to be exiting that final corner? Obviously closer than 0.2 of a second. Unless there's some sort of super send or mistake out of Hisada in turn number 1, I think he's got a pretty good race car. He just needs to keep it mistake-free. Is more aggressive driving. That was a crazy late move from Farron Grau. And Joe, the other one in this mix now, JDS, up 18 positions, looking for a top 10 if he can get through.
We haven't been watching him, but yeah, like you said earlier, he's been pulling a clapper here today and just charging through the fields. This could be fun with those two. Could spice things up. Grau with a lot of confidence in the grip on that car with how late and how decisive he slid to the inside down at the braking into turn 1. But now they're starting to back up a bit as we take a look at the replay of Karthik Pai coming down into turn 5. Is there contact here? It's looking like there might be. Indeed, he gets pipped and slides a 360 out into the gravel.
Yeah, I think that was Dylan Freckleton that kind of just barely got into him there. A little bit unfortunate later in the race. But James Barry this time 0.35 of a second behind Togo Hisada coming out onto turn number 13. So it's not going to happen this time either. Pepe Fuentes kind of even behind Gernot Frische as well.
No action this time down into turn 1, but that gives us a chance to breathe, maybe catch up a little bit, figure out what's going on amongst them. Although Barry does not need much time to recover. Look at this. He's once again forcing Hisada to cover off the inside down into turn 4 and tries the outside once again. He almost made it work. This is perhaps the closest he got all race long. But Hisada is a smart driver. Yeah, he learned his lesson, and he'll cover him again on the inside into 5.
Great exit from our second place car. Just turn 7 is nowhere to make a move, and we've seen Hisada around the outside of that thing be able to carry the speed. Let's see about through number 9 here. Togo's been very good about getting the throttle down, and James Barry in that dirty air behind our leader isn't able to make up any ground. Watch this accordion effect. James so good on the brakes going into turn number 10. Once again, closes it up, and this is the area of the racetrack where his car is going to be a little bit faster. Takes a little bit of a wider arc on entry, capitalizing on that late apex, trying to get as close to that rear wing as he can get.
James seems to get 90% there, and then it's that last 10%, that fight back from Hisada each time that he can't seem to hold him down into second. This time he gets another good run, but he's not gaining on him. It seems like Hisada just holding on to that lead spot, holding on to that distance a little bit better down the main straight. What is James doing now? Is he lifting down that straight, or is that genuinely Togo just being able to hold the distance as they once again go through 3 and 4. Meanwhile, Jack David Spickett has caught up to Grau and Becker truly now. He is in the fight with them. Grau not on the attack, maybe on the defense. No, he is on the attack, and that puts him on defense as he goes too deep into the corner. JDS says, thanks, you made life easy. I'm now back into that 11th spot.
And James Barry is up the inside of Togo Hisada. We've seen Hisada defend around the outside of 7. He's going to do it again. James going to make contact with the left rear. Off goes Togo Hisada, bouncing over the curves. Contact with Gernot Frische. They both spin off into the wall.
Oh, and Hisada will actually contact the wall, but it looks like Frische gets away with it. Wheel off his wagon. Togo has 2 bad days in a row while Barry runs away. This is his chance to close down that championship fight.
Oh my goodness, that is going to be controversy after this race. And, you know, I just went back and looked at it on my screen, Joe. I think this is a racing incident, and unfortunately, I think netcode played a part on both of the impacts.
Not that surprising. It just got a little bit too intense, and the drivers are pretty far away on the globe. We're going to take another look at it. And yeah, the little bit of the net code between the two of them bouncing across the track. Once again, those two probably would have touched, but on screen it looks like they were still a foot apart or so.
And, you know, I don't want to harp on this too long, but when you try to defend from the outside, you're always taking that risk of the car impacting maybe the inside of your car. So can't really put all of the fault on James Berry. And if anything, if I wanted to be strict about it, you got to be careful about your rejoin. That second impact might have been unnecessary.
To give you an idea of how much the pace has increased over the last, I'd say 2 years here, we used to see Xavier Sanchez fighting in the top 5. He's right now in 14th in this group. And I don't think that's because he's slow. I think that's just everybody's gotten so darn fast out there. But he's hot on the heels of Kevin Parrish currently.
Well, and you know, him in the back of this train is providing some great views for everybody that he's streaming to out there in this awesome iRacing Lotus 79 race. We've got, call it 3 laps to go out here. And Joe, Gernot Frische has a black flag?
He does. I'm going to guess this is due to incident limits. I wouldn't think he would have a slowdown penalty that he wouldn't serve quick enough. Yeah, this is very strange. So he's going to come in and have to serve that now. So what could have been another top 5 for him at the least, even with his drama, has slipped through his fingers as Dylan Freckleton takes over that spot. Meanwhile, Jack David Spickett. Now, we saw Grau couldn't get by Becker. What about JDS?
I think JDS is bringing an alternate setup here. That's how he's made his way forward so much, and he's got a ton of top speed. He's looking down to the pit road exit to try to find some room on the inside of the racetrack. Becker really deep on the brakes, wiggles it into turn number 1. JDS going to try an over-under. Now he's on the wrong side of the racetrack for turn number 3. Can the downforce level keep him there? He's still side by side with Becker.
Jack says St. Patty's Day was a long time ago. You can't pinch me. They're going to go 3 wide into the corner. He'll take the inside away, bangs wheels a little bit. Josephine gets elbowed out, and that actually allows Grau through, too.
Baron Grau is saying, thank you very much for opening that door. I finally got my way through, and now I've got a slipstream. Can I run away from Josephine Becker? And we've got a hungry pack of wolves behind,
including Heike 360 versus Kevin Parrish, but he can't quite get by down into turn 6. Places we don't expect to see passes have happened multiple times this race. This has been a fascinating one. We might have another one here coming down into Lacaja. Connor Levy and his fan base are going to be disappointed as he gets clipped and flies out into the gravel.
Yeah, that was just Connor being too aggressive. Josephine Becker got wicked loose on the exit of turn number 9, and then by the time we got to 10, Levy was up next to him and unfortunately just kind of turned into that car. A little bit self-inflicted there.
Whoa, well, now we got a spinner behind them. That was Gernot Frische back onto the track, but having trouble in this group, and I don't know if he made some contact or if the car was damaged. Action
is going down in these last handful of laps. You know, it kicked off extremely exciting, and Sanchez here once again side by side going to get to the inside of Josephine Becker, and poor number 33. What was such a great race is kind of unraveled here towards the end.
And she got roughed around a little bit too on that one, but I think she did a great defense all race long. Barry West, what's going to be happening with the big cat? Is he going to have someone coming around the outside? It looks like he's going to try and fight back for that 19th spot. They're going to go wheel to wheel as that is Hans Sommer that is fighting with him around the outside into turn 4. We've seen that work from time to time, so I don't think this is over quite yet. Great job right in the rim there from Sommer, and then under braking down into 5. He gets the spot back.
Barry West going to fall back into those tire tracks there. So, like you said, Sommer kind of leads them down into what is turn number 7. Barry's having a good race, though, up 4 positions. Started back there in 24th, sitting in 20th right now.
White flag is out for James Barry. He started in 3rd place and wound up falling backwards, and now suddenly he finds himself, started in 2nd place, I should say. And he is suddenly on the back foot once again. as Pepe Fuentes is starting to get ever closer, but the time appears to have run out for the number 6. He may have gained a little bit of time, but James Barry has not only managed this race well, but he has had to fight his way up to this top spot.
I wonder what's going through the mind of Togo Hisada right now after having 2 bad weeks, and not only 2 bad weeks, but seeing James Barry come up here and probably win this race here. I mean, he's only got, half a lap remaining, so a frustrating point of this championship right now for Togo Hisada, and will he rebound? He's obviously a prior champion in both the 49s and the 79s, but he's got his work cut out for him.
James Barry with just a couple corners to go. He already took his first win of the season back at Brands Hatch. He's going to make it 2 this time. Didn't get the pole position, so he's not going to get maximum points, but he is going to get that fastest lap bonus, and he's going to take the win here in Spain.
Hard-earned, great racing from that number 7 car. Remember, he fell down the order on that initial green flag launch, but raced his way to the top of the podium. Pepe Fuentes and James Byrne are going to round out the podium. The number 1 car going to spray some virtual champagne today.
Yeah, great run by James Byrne, just kind of quietly up into those top 3 spots. It looks like Levy recovered to 16th, but lost a spot to Ruiz right at the end, who was faster than his limping cars. The rest of them come across the line. They didn't catch too much lap traffic like I thought they would. So we really got just pretty much a straight fight up at the front all race long. Oh, like you said, action nonstop throughout the entire thing.
No, it was awesome action, and I actually see a lot of interaction right now over on the stream side of things, wondering about Lotus 79s. How do we come and race here? And this is the top split of the official series, so every single weekend here on Sunday morning, at least Sunday morning for me out here on the West Coast, 12:30 Eastern, we broadcast the top split of the official Lotus 79 race. So if you want to come in here and race on this broadcast race, make sure your iRating is good enough to reach top split and come join us.
Absolutely. Highly encourage everybody. It's a super friendly group here in the 79s. But let's read out how this friendly group ended their race and go through the results of this one, because James Barry may have actually just taken the points lead with his 2nd win of the season. First in the UK, now over here in Spain. It was Pepe Fuentes who finished in 2nd behind him. And then it was James Byrne in P3 today. Gabri Martinez from 7th to 4th, another driver that kind of quietly did his thing. And then even better job for Dylan Freckleton, going from 11th to a top 5. Shady Ahmad finishes 6th where he started. Karthik Pai in 7th. JDS, hard charger of the race, no doubt, 31st to 8th today. Farad Grau was 9th, and then Kevin Parrish rounds out your top 10.
Ike 360, also known as Xavier Sanchez, with a good day, plus 8 to finish in 11th. Josephine Becker, I mean, talk about a fantastic race, finishing in 12th place. I think she was hoping for maybe a little bit more, but fell down the order to 12th in those final couple laps. Daniel Gallus back here in 13th. Gernot Friesche with the penalty falls down to 14th. Ricardo Ruiz, 15th spot. Connor Levy finishes in 16th. Shout out to Levy Nation out there watching. Bjorn Ackerman in 17th. Martin Reisman in 18th. Han Summer 19th. And Barry West rounding out your top 20.
21st will be Javier Mosquera. A good recovery considering he had a black flag right at the start. Kurt Clapper wound up 22nd today. Jana Lehman 23rd, and then Alec Cunningham in the 24th spot. Antonio Alvarez P25. AJ Roper fell backwards a bit into 26. Jos Gislain was 27th, and then Carol Zaro into 28th. Gerard Boldu was 29th today. Simon Steinbild was 30th, last car on the lead lap. Then it was Morales in 31st, and a DNF for Hisada, Cockram, and Peralta today. So looks like we might actually have Barry West here to talk to us, coming home in 20th. So let's have a quick chat with Barry. It looked like you were stuck in some pretty intense battles out there, Barry.
Yes, it was pretty intense, wasn't it? I thought I got old hands off for the last 2 laps, but not to be. No, that was it's a hard race. I mean, it's really good racing this track, and they're so close. I mean, you look at the times. I mean, they're really close. And yeah, I messed qualifying up again as usual, so I made it difficult for myself.
Well, and back in the pack that you were in, at times I described it as being almost like Talladega. Did it feel like that?
Yeah, it was. You didn't know, 3 wide and going into the corners. You didn't know what to do. It was yeah, it was a game of chicken every corner. It seemed at the beginning of the race.
I love that description. A game of chicken, trying to outbreak each other. Well, again, congratulations on a top 20. Hopefully, we'll see more of that in your top split.
Yeah, thanks, then, guys.
That was Barry West, 20th. But we've been joined by our winner as Joey has caught up with James Barry.
Well, James, first of all, congratulations on the race win, and talk us through that incident with Togo Hisada through your point of view.
Hi guys, how are you? Yeah, I'm a bit mixed feelings after that. That was a hell of a race and such a sad way to end. Yeah, I had a look back at the incident, and I mean, there's a tiny netcode there. You know, I'm in UK, he's in Japan. I'm guessing. It's a long way, and we're traveling at high speeds, and the cars are so sensitive, and just this tiny netcode contact. And I've just messaged him now. I said, you know, maybe I could avoid it by being a bit more careful, but when I'm pushing that hard, you know, I'm pushing so much to try and beat him, because at that point it's all I care about is getting past him when I'm, you know, behind him for so long and I know I have the pace. And at that point I'm not really thinking about netcode, I'm just trying to push the limits, and then that happens. It's just a really, really sad way to end. He was incredible. I mean, you know, I've raced against other guys who are fast, but Togo there just putting the car in the perfect place every time. There was the one time where I thought I'd got him in the same place where the contact happened, and then he just sends it around the outside and gets it back, and it's like, wow. Amazing.
Well, don't beat yourself up on it. From what we saw and analyzed, there's definitely some netcode out there, and when you kind of risk the outside line, that's always a possibility. So don't feel too hard about it. Togo Hisada has been in these positions before, but what made it so difficult to try to get to that passing opportunity? You were there. It seemed like you had a little bit of a higher downforce, but just couldn't get that opportunity.
Yeah, it was the same. I don't know if you were commentating on the Hungary race early in the season, but it was the same situation where I had a high downforce setup on, because for me, like, I'm quite new to this car, and for me, I try Togo setups that he shares, and I can't drive them at that speed. I have to put on a fair bit more downforce. So even in the slipstream, I wasn't able to attack him in, well, one occasion I did it to get side by side in the braking zone. But apart from that, it was just trying to get him on the exits of corners, really, or the entries, because that's where I knew I could have an advantage. Obviously, fighting against dirty air at the same time, it makes it really difficult. But that was, you know, the only way I could get past was in the turns.
Well, like I said, don't beat yourself up over that contact out there. It definitely happens. I think that you are a rising star here in this Lotus 79 series, always racing towards the front, putting on a great show. So is there anybody you want to give a shout out to while we've got you here?
Yeah, shout out you guys, shout out the whole community, because yeah, thanks for like having me in the series. It's super fun, amazing series, really enjoying it. And of course, shout that one I have to dedicate to Togo, because he put on a bit of a masterclass there.
Well, that was James Barry collecting a checkered flag here at Barcelona today.
No doubt we'll help him out in that hunt for the crown this season. And I think that's going to wrap up our interviews. So we'll see them next time, of course, when they go to the Red Bull Ring. That'll be Sunday, August 31st at 12:30 p.m. Eastern, penultimate round. Talking about that championship, it's going to be critical that drivers really set themselves up for the last race of the season. Joey, I mean, it was interesting to hear Barry West describe this place as racing great. I feel like I rarely hear that in real life, that this place races great.
I think each car is a little bit different when you come here, and yes, you can get into those draft trains like we saw. That middle of the pack had a huge, call it fight throughout the middle of the race, but I think it all depends on who you're racing against. And here in these vintage communities, the 49s, the 79s, the IMSA Vintage Series, everybody wants to race respectfully. We heard it from James Barry. Togo left room. He left Togo Hisada room. Unfortunately, a little bit of netcode took out Hisada, but everybody wants to race clean here. So come join us.
Indeed. So a big thank you, of course, goes out to both the community and to our team here today, Joey Christian Duploy, not Daniel Costello, and of course, Dougie Beard. We'll be back tomorrow night with Porsche Owners Club at Laguna Seca here on the Global Sim Racing channel. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.